direction is narrow and steep.
The bypaths are many,
the pitfalls are deep.
By theory alone, many think to arrive. Here's one who could teach them if he were alive. A philosopher stepped into a boat, the river to cross would he. So learned was he thought no man could be half so clever as he. Singing wise-o with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. Singing wise-o with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. To the boatman he said,
Good man, pray tell of the German philosophers three, Schopenhauer, Hegel, and weighty Kant, whom you deem the wisest to be.
Singing wise-o with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. Singing wise-o with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he.
Please excuse me, sir,
The boatman said,
I've not read your philosophers three. All day I'm obliged to ply these oars to support my family and me.
Singing wise-o with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. Singing wise-o with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he.
In that case, my good man, your wretched life is as good as a quarter lost. Why, without the writings of those three men, not a shelf of books would I trust.
Singing wise-o with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. Singing wise-o with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he.
Now then tell me, good man,
The scholar said,
have you studied the Frenchman Descartes?
I told you before,
the other cried.
I'm unschooled, hard work is my art.
Singing wise-o with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. Singing wise-o with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he.
Hard work, what a waste, sad foolish man. Half your life has been thrown away, yet still a fragment might be redeemed. Memorize one theory a day.
Singing wise-o with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. Singing wise-o with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. Of a sudden a storm with raging might did lash that river to foam. Like a drifting petal they tossed their boat till it seemed they'd never get home. Singing wise-o with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. Singing wise-o with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. Then the boatman cried,
My learned sir, our chances are growing dim. Two questions you put me so far this trip. Now I'll ask you one. Can you swim?
Singing wise-o with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. Singing wise-o with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he.
I can't swim a stroke!
The philosopher cried as he clung in despair to an oar.
Then the rest of your life is lost, my friend. You'll not need those books anymore.
Singing wise-o with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. Singing wise-o with his book so, such a mighty scholar was he. The boatman regrets to say his fare never reached the opposite bank. All that ponderous learning inside his head gave him weight, you see, and he said. Singing wise-o with his book so, was he, singing wise o with his book so, such a weighty scholar was he. La 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 la.
This reading is from Rays of the One Light, weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. Intuition is simple, the intellect is complex. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. In the Gospel of St. Mark, chapter 10, we read a passage that Yogananda often quoted. And they brought young children to him, that he should teach them, and his disciples rebuked those that brought them. But when Jesus saw it, he was much displeased, and said unto them, Suffer the little children to come unto me, and forbid them not, for of such is the kingdom of God. Verily I say unto you, whosoever shall not receive the kingdom of God as a little child, he shall not enter therein. It has often been noted that a critical attitude tends to paralyze creativity. Good critics, for example, seldom produce works of creative genius, though their creations may be intellectually clever. The intellect separates, it analyzes, then puts things together again piece by piece. Intellect lacks intuition's flow, which descends smoothly like a river from the superconscious. Paramhansa Yogananda described intuition as the soul's power of knowing God. To receive the kingdom of God, Jesus was saying, one must do so with the openness and trust of a little child. Intellectuals may object to this statement, saying, but there must also be discrimination. You wouldn't want a person to be so open-minded that his brain falls out. The truth is, however, that the intellect can be fooled, even when it does its best to discriminate wisely. Only intuition is capable of penetrating to the heart of a matter and knowing truth from falsehood. It was the clear understanding of a child, not the elaborately persuaded intellects of his elders, that enabled the child in Hans Christian Andersen's story to cry out in surprise, "Why isn't the emperor wearing any clothes?" Therefore, it was that Sri Krishna said in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, "To you who are free from the carping spirit, I shall now reveal wisdom sublime. Grasping it with your mind and perceiving it by intuitive realization, you shall escape the evils of delusion." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om. Om. Om.
This is a reading from Whispers from Eternity by Paramahansa Yogananda. This is prayer demand for illumination. O Spirit, beloved Father, over soul of the universe, Spirit of spirits, friend of friends, teach me the mystery of my existence. Teach me to worship Thee in breathlessness and in deathlessness. In the fire of devotion, burn away my ignorance. In the stillness of my soul, come, Spirit, come. Possess me and teach me to feel Thy immortal presence in me and around me. Come, Spirit, come. Come, Spirit, come.
You can applaud if I get through this whole service. And thank you, everyone, for reading and singing and chanting. And wonderful. Sometimes I wish this stuff weren't right here. Okay. So, yeah, no, I think you can. Remember, I get too close anyway. So someone sent me an email the other day, and it was sayings that are on church billboards outside their churches. And this one said, "There are some questions that Google can't answer." And I thought that was good for today's topic on intuition. It does come in other ways. And then I was also thinking, Swamiji brought up suffer little children to come unto me, so I went to my children's file, and there's this book, I use it often here, but there's this book called Letters to God by children of all ages. And you can come over here, Elizabeth. You're okay? Okay. And I was thinking in this context of how do we tune into intuition, and how do we know answers, and we all want answers in life, and how does it come to us? So I was thinking in the beginning, when you're a child, you have to experiment, and you find out a lot of answers to life by experimentation. And this one letter to God says, "Dear God, don't hold a dustbuster and a cat at the same time." So through that, you learn that noise, that incredible noise of the dustbuster, is not going to be compatible with a little kitty sensitive. And then as you grow, there's this little 9-year-old girl that writes to God, and she's starting to ask questions, try to figure out life a little bit. She's still only 9 years old, and she said, "Dear God, my brother told me how children are born. That's just a joke, right?" I think some of us as adults feel the same way. That can't possibly be the way God wanted it to happen. But Sri Yukteswar, Yogananda's guru, in the Autobiography of a Yogi, he talks about soul intuition. And today, we seem to have a lot of readings today, but that's just the way it's happening. But I wanted to read this. I started to read it, and many times, we all read stories and we want to just sort of encapsulate it. But this one is so precious, and the words are so fabulous. I thought I was going to read part of it. I won't read all of it. I am going to be done in time. So, it is called The Cauliflower Robbery. And Master, for those of you who don't know, Master is Paramahansa Yogananda right here, and his guru, his teacher, is Sri Yukteswar. And he calls him Master. Master, a gift for you. There are these 6 huge cauliflowers were planted with my own hands. Yeah, I was thinking of you, Peter. Peter has a garden. I have watched over their growth with the tender care of a mother nursing her child. I presented the basket of vegetables with a ceremonial flourish. Thank you, Sri Yukteswar's smile was warm and appreciative. Please keep them in your room. I shall need them tomorrow for a special dinner. I had just arrived in Puri to spend my college summer vacation with my guru at his seaside hermitage. Built by Master and his disciples, the cheerful little 2-storied retreat fronts on the Bay of Bengal. I awoke early the following morning, refreshed by the salty sea breezes and the charm of my surroundings. Sri Yukteswar's melodious voice was calling. I took a look at my cherished cauliflowers and stowed them neatly under my bed. Come, let us go to the beach. Master led the way. Several young disciples and myself followed in a scattered group. Our gurus surveyed us in mild criticism. When our Westerners walk, they usually take pride in unison. And if you've ever been to India, this is one of the most amazing differences between maybe all Asian cultures and Western cultures is scatteredness. And they do everything. In America, no matter what line you're in, whether it's cars or the bathroom or the supermarket, whatever it is, we all line up, don't we? We're very, very good about that. In India, I've been to so many long lines in the ladies' room, and I'll just be standing there, taking my turn, and they just come right in front of you over and over again. So anyway, he's trying to say, the Western brothers walk in unison. Sri Yukteswar watched as we obeyed. He began to sing. Boys go to and fro in a pretty little row. Boys go to could not but admire the ease with which Master was able to match the brisk pace of his young students. "Halt!" My guru's eyes sought mine. "Did you remember to lock the back door of the hermitage?" "I think so." Sri Yukteswar was silent for a few minutes, a half-suppressed smile on his lips. "Nope, you forgot," he said finally. "Divine contemplation must not be made an excuse for material carelessness. You have neglected your duty in safeguarding the ashram. You shall be punished." I thought he was obscurely joking when he added, "Your 6 cauliflowers will soon be 5. We turned around at Master's orders and marched back until we were close to the hermitage. "Rest a while, Mukunda," he called Yogananda Mukunda. "Look across the compound on our left. Observe the road beyond. A certain man will arrive there presently. He will be the means of your chastisement." I concealed my vexation at these incomprehensible remarks. A peasant soon appeared on the road. He was dancing grotesquely and flinging his arms about with meaningless gestures. Almost paralyzed with curiosity, I glued my eyes on the hilarious spectacle. As the man reached a point in the road where he would vanish from our view, Sri Yukteswar said, "Now he will return." The peasant at once changed his direction and made for the rear of the ashram. Crossing a sandy tract, he entered the building by the back door. I had left it unlocked, even as my guru had said. The man emerged shortly, holding one of my prize cauliflowers. He now strode along respectfully, invested with the dignity of possession. I love that. The unfolding farce, in which my role appeared to be that of bewildered victim, was not so disconcerting that I failed in indignant pursuit. I was halfway to the road when Master recalled me. He was shaking from head to foot with laughter. "That poor crazy man has been longing for a cauliflower," he explained with outbursts of mirth. "I thought it would be a good idea if he got one of yours, so ill-guarded." I dashed to my room where I found that the thief, evidently one with a vegetation fixation, had left untouched my gold rings, my watch, my money, all lying openly on the blanket. He had crawled instead under the bed, where completely hidden from casual sight, one of my cauliflowers had aroused his single-hearted desire. I asked Sri Yukteswar that evening to explain what was going on. He said, "You will understand it someday. Science will soon discover a few of these hidden laws." So it goes on to talk about how Sri Yukteswar was a perfect radio. He could receive information and he could send out information. And this is what we do when our intuition is developed. We receive that information from the divine, and then we're able to help others with our intuition and sending them energy. And like the healing prayers that we do, we send that energy out. And it's with that focus and that knowing that God will help. I mean, Peter's a perfect example. Excuse us for using you all the time, but Peter was sick all week. He could barely talk. We had him in silence for 2 days. And then I found out he couldn't even whisper, because Bhagavati said that wasn't good either. So the poor guy, he was just in silence. And he was eating what we told him and drinking what we told him, and he just had no mind of his own. We just had everybody telling him. And so yesterday we had this big event, for those of you who were in here, a beautiful event. And Peter was one of the 4 singers, as he was this morning, but he didn't have a voice. It was real shaky. And it was, I don't know, half hour, an hour, something like that, before the program was to start. They had redone the whole program to be a trio instead of a quartet, thank you. I was going to say a quadruple. And that's close. And he got up there and he sang. I mean, it was really amazing. So through Swamiji's healing prayers, through his mother, who's head of the healing prayer ministry, Ananda Worldwide, everybody in the world was praying for Peter. He didn't have a chance. So it was absolutely beautiful. But how do we develop this intuition? And Swami Kriyananda, our masters, all tell us it's through our meditations. It's through going deep. It's through tuning to that divine consciousness. And Yogananda says that deep intuition comes at the end, after we've put out all the energy to do our techniques, to call on God, to do, our chanting, all those things that we do. At the very end, when our energy is right here at the point between the eyebrows, the seat of God consciousness, when it's right there, and then we try to go into that light and we hold on to it. And the Master said over and over again, it's like you sit to meditate and you bring the energy up, and then you have the thought, oh, I forgot to do this, and you go. And what are you really doing at that point? You're making a big mistake, for one thing, because with that energy there that isn't either released or dealt with, it's going to be dealt with later on in your day. And you might wonder, why am I so scattered? Why did that happen? Why, And you can go back usually to your meditation. How long did I stay? How long did I bring the energy here and burn up those vrittis, burn up those desires that you brought up in the spine and then are here, and then you just leave it. And it's just like there's nowhere to go. But if you sit and you burn it up and you offer it to God, the longer you sit, the more it will be released, but also the more you'll be able to feel a divine presence in you, and you start developing your intuition, the soul's longing, the soul's knowing that God is there with you. It's very, very beautiful. And if you're new at meditation, remember this. That's part of it. If you have 10 minutes, don't have 9 minutes of meditation and that quick. 5 minutes of your techniques, 5 minutes of sitting there, whatever it is, but it's your soul's. That's when you develop your intuition. And that's why someone like Swami Kriyananda, the founder of Ananda, can, like Dhammaraj was saying last night, instantly know what music is coming, instantly know the answer to a problem. He's even said, if someone asks him a question and he doesn't know and he says, I don't know, in that instant it's there. Because he's opened himself up to receive that answer. In that openness, in that humility, in that saying, I don't know, but I know you know, it comes. And it can come to all of us. There's a beautiful story of this woman who was about to have a child. And it wasn't coming, and it wasn't coming. And the doctors didn't know what to do. And so the young husband went to his father, and he said, I don't know what to do. It won't come. She doesn't want it. She's refusing to have a C-section. What should I do? And he said, don't worry. I'll go talk to her. He said, they're not going to let you talk to her. He said, no, don't. So the grandfather goes into the room where the mother is, and he starts talking to the baby. And he says, actually, well, let's see, how should I tell this? I'll tell you first what happens. What happens is the doctors are all ready. They've got, everybody ready for the C-section. She's finally agreed. They take her up to the room to have the operation. And then all of a sudden, on the loudspeaker or whatever, they hear that the baby is born, or they hear the cries. That's what it is. They hear the cries of the baby's been born. The son goes back to his father. He says, what did you do? What happened? Because everybody said, well, it was because of this and it was because of this. And he said, no, I think it was because of my father. And so the grandfather says, well, I went and talked to the child because I felt a lot of fear of the child in the mother, fear in the doctors, fear in you, and obviously then there would be fear in the child. So I went to the child, really, to the mother, and I started telling him all about my life and how beautiful it was and where our people came from and the vast prairies and the mountains. And I started telling him about all the fun we're going to have and the adventures we're going to have. And he said, and then I started telling him about my love for him. And he said, in that telling him and opening my heart, he came. That's why he came. So that intuition is so deep. And in these, this woman that tells these stories, she's a Jewish woman, but she has these people that come to her of all different nationalities and faiths. And you see in these, especially for me, in these nationalities that are connected in with the earth. The American, what do you say, Native Americans now, American Indians and people of the desert and people of the mountains. They're just connected in. And so that's what he was saying. Come, I'll tell you what your life is going to be. And so we go through our lives and we try as hard as we can to tune into intuition and how we are going to help people. The other part of the reading today is about the carping spirit. The Swamiji brings it up. And I'm not going to talk too long, but I just wanted to read you this quote. The fault-finding tendency actually prevents people from arriving at higher perceptions of truth. Isn't that amazing? Fault-finding tendency actually prevents people from arriving at higher perceptions of truth. Fault-finding indeed belongs to a lower level of mentation. I was thinking about that this morning, and to me it's an extremely profound statement. Because in that criticizing, in that thinking that you can't find the answers. I had an interesting experience yesterday with someone, and we were disagreeing on something that's about to happen. And it wasn't a strong disagreement, but it was a disagreement. Finally, I realized we have to talk. We can't just keep sending these emails back and forth. So that's the new age. And so we came down, and she told me why she thought it should be one way, and I told her why I thought it should be the other way. And in that understanding of where each other was coming from, we knew the answer. And so often in life, we have a criticism because we don't know the whole story. We criticize mostly because we have an idea of how things should be, whatever it is, and someone else has a different idea. And so, how stupid. I mean, why don't they see that I'm right? And that's all it is. Just not communicating, not understanding, not letting go of your opinion. Because most of the things that we do in life are based on opinion. They're not based on truth or fact. They're based on what we want to do. And so to encourage us all to communicate. And we have this glorious ashram here. I'm not going to tell you how glorious it is because I'm going to get through this and I'm going to get an applause at the end. So I'm not going to tell you how glorious it is. I'll tell you later if I can. But, I'll tell you a story. I can tell you the story. Some of you have heard this before, but it has to do a little bit with this thought of intellect and intuition. And it's coming from a quote that I read the other day from Durga Mata, who is one of Yogananda's foremost disciples. And she was talking about intuition, and one of the comments she said was, "Don't think it to death." And I was thinking about that in terms of the story. And I wasn't really thinking, but I was too much involved in what I was doing. And this is the story of when Swamiji asked me to blow the conch at an event. And I was going through these slides the other day, and I saw this picture of this huge auditorium. I think it was in San Francisco. And there were like 1,000 people there, and it was layers and layers and layers, one of those fabulous venues where it's just ornate and you can visualize orchestras and operas. And then Brooke's mother, who's an extremely good photographer, was in the back. Interesting way of doing it. Instead of right on Swamiji, she was in the back. So it's Swami's back as he's teaching, and then all these people, and it was fabulous. Well, so somebody, I think it was Krishnadas, decided it would be really good, because I think it was the book launch of the Gita. I might have all this wrong, but anyway, it makes a good story. So it was the opening of the Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna plays the conch, and Arjuna goes out and he's opening the war. It's time. And so he thought, oh, why don't you go out and play the conch, and that'll introduce the Bhagavad Gita. Great idea. Durga, would you do that? And I thought about it for a while, and I said, okay, I'll do it. And so when we were practicing, getting ready, I was off to the side. And I was just, off here, and I was going to blow the conch, and it was all fine. About 15 minutes before it opened, I got the word that Swami wanted me to walk right out on the stage, front stage, center stage, no one else on the stage, just me and all these people. And so I started practicing that conch. And I play it fine, but I got nervous, and I'm going in the back. I'm in the outside. And I'm blowing that conch. I'm going to do it right. Swami's there, and this is a really big, it's an important day for him, and, all those responsibilities that we have. And so I walked out on the stage, and I'm walking from way back, got my purple sari on and whatever, and I'm walking out, I got my conch, and I open, and I hold it up like this, and I take this deep breath, and it goes. But luckily, Master was there. And I really felt a lot of grace, unbelievably so. I felt a lot of grace. I didn't get flustered. I didn't, no, I'm doing this for Swami. Master, you're there, right? And then I lifted it up and I played it 3 times and it was all fine. But it was interesting because people said later it really broke the ice. Well, I played it and everybody laughed. Everybody in the audience laughed. And anyway, then I played it. But I was thinking of it because it's not only, obviously my intuition wasn't up to snuff, but you don't have to. You just draw on that grace of the Guru. He did come through with me when I got out of the way. When everyone laughed, I settled down and then I could do it. So you can do that without making a fool of yourself. You can do it with just the grace of knowing the masters are there. In this time at the ashram we've had together, we have had ups and downs. Of course, that is the life of everyone that's born. And sometimes we feel like, I don't need to be here right now. I could be doing other things, or, maybe I want to do something else, and I've had these same feelings myself. Maybe I don't want to teach that class. Maybe see if someone else can do it today. We all have our stuff. But we've come to do Master's work here. And the beautiful thing is that we all know that. Every one of us knows it. And we do it in our own way. But as we've grown together and separately, we've taken that challenge. We weren't forced to come here. We came here, Swami asked us to, and we accepted. And we've come through it with amazing, just all the things we've done together. And we have had the choice every step along the way of what to do. And I believe because we meditate together a lot, we talk amongst ourselves a lot. What's right? What do you think is right? Swami says you can do whatever you want, and we still come back to doing what we know is right. He gives it to us. He never tells us. And every one of us has stepped up to the plate to do what we know is right. Where does that come from? That comes from an intuition of knowing that God is with us and orchestrating this entire thing. I wanted to end with a quote, it's a quote, but it's a letter, part of a letter that Paramahansa Yogananda wrote to his first disciple in America, Dr. Lewis. And he never really called people his disciples, but he was the first person that opened his heart to Yogananda in this country. And he came here in 1920 at his guru's behest, and I was going to tell that whole story, but I'm not going to do it now. But it also is about intuition and tuning in to his guru, tuning in to Babaji, tuning into his father, turning into visions that he had, all the steps along the way to say, do I really need to go to America? Yes, 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 yes. And so he came. And so he's in America, and he's been in America for 3 years. He hasn't founded his work yet in Los Angeles. He's traveling around the country for 5 years. He lands in 1920. And this letter was written to Dr. Lewis, who's on the East Coast. And Dr. Lewis had a lot of ups and downs. He was a dentist. He had really no interest in anything. And he met Yogananda, and Yogananda pierced right through his eyes with his consciousness, and he became a lover of God and a great man, a great lover of God. But he went through his ups and downs. And this is a letter that Yogananda wrote him from New York. He talks for a while about Dr. Lewis, and then he says, "My heart is shining with power as it never was. That God has selected such an unworthy nothingness like me to do his work. Your spirit is with me. The real you is now coming into the limelight." That doesn't happen if you don't say yes. That doesn't happen if you don't open your heart. The real you is now coming in the limelight. Be not afraid, child of the eternal lightning. March on with unperturbed, steady steps, elbowing through a million darknesses. What does that mean to you? Elbowing, pushing, against the current sometimes, through a million darknesses. We all have it. Why? What is body? What is this passing show? They are gone. But the candles that you are lighting and burning in your Father's house will show you your path here and hereafter. Dr. Lewis says that's one of his most cherished letters. These are all letters from Yogananda to Dr. Lewis and back. And he said that's his most cherished letter because it gave him courage to go on. And isn't it sweet how Swamiji does this too, to perfection. He doesn't take what you do wrong and just keep at you until you change it. He hints and sometimes hints for many, many years, but he will encourage you to do what's right. And in that encouragement, we can open, we can test, we can intuit, and we can do the right thing for this lifetime. Anyway, I just want to thank you all for